And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, not only is California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara incompetent and corrupt, he's also completely full of his own BS. Here is something Ricardo Lara said at a California insurance disaster conference in Sacramento.
And you know what? This may be the hardest work that I do as an elected official, as an insurance commissioner, and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
What?
Get my wig snatched?
Get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say, and dragged through every corner of this state. And I might end up being the most unelectable person, but I don't care, because this is going to be the most meaningful work that I do for the state of California.
Oh, my God. I'm the most hated man in the state of California. I'm unelectable for any position, and I don't care. I guess we now know he's got the next job lined up.
Get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Do the gay guys say that?
I've never heard that before.
If you're gay, please email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Is this a phrase?
Get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Wait, drag queens wear wigs. Gay guys don't wear wigs.
Let's hear this nonsense in its entirety one more time. This was Ricardo Lara yesterday.
And you know what? This may be the hardest work that I do as an elected official, as an insurance commissioner, and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say, and dragged through every corner of this state. And I might end up being the most unelectable person, but I don't care, because this is going to be the most meaningful work that I do for the state of California.
Okay, let's put this in context, because what he did yesterday was approve a massive rate hike for State Farm after they presented an incomplete case for the hike at a hearing in Oakland that he did not attend. And then you have a group of people. There is an organization that's called extremeweathersurvivors.org. It's people whose homes have burned down in fires or destroyed in a hurricane, those sorts of things. And the organization is meant to go after public officials if they're not doing their job after the weather event happens. So in this particular case, it's homeowners who can't get their insurance companies to abide by the contract. They're upset at the insurance companies, and they're upset at the California Department of Insurance because they are not requiring the insurance companies to fulfill their obligations. So this group is spending money going after Ricardo Lara, and they're going after him at these conferences that he's speaking at. They're buying radio time. They're buying, maybe not radio, I don't know.
They
They're
should
buying,
be. Call our sales department.
They're buying time different places attacking Ricardo Lara. So in a moment when he just approved rate hikes for everyone in the state who is a customer of State Farm, and he will not go to bat for fire victims, he's saying that this is the most fulfilling aspect of his job, and he doesn't care that you hate him.
And I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Get my wig snatched.
Now, he was asked some questions at this conference, including about State Farm. I have two of these cuts that I've clipped so far. Let's hear what he had to say.
Hi, Commissioner Lara. Becca Habiger with ABC 10 News. Thank you so much for your time here. I am wondering, as we know, we try to contextualize and give information.
Was she just holding in a sneeze?
I think so.
Poor girl.
When it's your time, it's your time. You got to be ready to go to ask that question. If you got to sneeze, you got to hold it in.
Hi, Commissioner Lara. Becca Habiger with ABC 10 News. Thank you so much for your time here. I am wondering.
Yep, that she was anticipating a sneeze. Okay, not important. Let's move on.
As we know, we try to contextualize and give information to our viewers, to your constituents about these big changes in the insurance industry, and often just the headline will come through for folks. In light of that, I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about your decision regarding the State Farm emergency rate hike request. People might read the headline and go, oh my gosh, more money, more of my money going to State Farm. Can you speak directly to consumers about why this is necessary to help further stabilize California's insurance marketplace?
Oh, boy.
Okay, before he starts to answer, remember, he had more important things to do than to go to the hearing. So he is not even familiar with their arguments that they made in that hearing. He sent a representative and did not attend himself.
Well, he didn't need to. He had already given them the approval before the nonsensical hearing.
So the decision was a tough decision. You know, State Farm is the largest carrier in the state, and the judge clearly decided. And
I mean, the judge that works for you in this kabuki theater of a hearing.
And you already showed your hand of cards before the hearing even took place, saying you were going to approve it anyway.
And the judge clearly decided and understood that a rate increase was important because for the stability of the largest insurer in the state and for the solvency of our market. And the decision was a tough one. We either allow for this increase to ensure that we keep, State Farm customers covered.
You mean, but now they're broke. And they're still dropping people left and right and putting them on the FAIR plan.
And it's not as if they can't pull out of the California market in the future. They still have that ability.
Or else they lose their coverage and end up in the FAIR plan, further exacerbating the insurer of last resort. And so, but we're going to have, more importantly, we're going to have a full rate hearing. So again,
Wait, you're going to have a different hearing after you approved this thing?
Okay. The point of a hearing, in theory at least, is that they come to you with their best argument as to why they need this rate hike. You evaluate their argument, you ask them questions, and if it passes the smell test, you give it to them. If it doesn't, you say no. You already tipped your hand before the hearing took place how you were going to vote, and then they showed up to the hearing, and according to people who were there, that does not include Ricardo Lara, the evidence that they submitted to the judge was incomplete.
Not only that, remember that one of the expert witnesses that State Farm was going to use happened to be a consultant that was working for both State Farm and Ricardo Lara?
Oh, the fix was in. The fix was in before this hearing even took place, and everyone knows it.
More importantly, we're going to have a full rate hearing. So again, we get to the bottom of what's really happening.
You mean after starting in June, people get charged through the nose? It's not just 70% for homeowners. It's 38% for landlords of rental property, which means you're going to see a massive spike in rents throughout the entire state.
And again, they just got a rate increase approved by Ricardo Lara and the California Department of Insurance not that long ago.
With State Farm's financial condition, which is an issue that's been going on throughout the entire country. So we're going to continue to have due process and have an open and transparent hearing.
This has been nothing but transparent. You want to talk about transparency? He still won't provide the receipts for all of his taxpayer-funded travel to Bermuda, Bahama, or everywhere else.
And you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the old push for amnesty for illegal aliens, where they would say, okay, let's give everyone amnesty who's here illegally, and then we'll worry about patrolling the border instead of doing it the other way around. He's giving them the rate increase. He's giving them the cookie. He's giving them what they want and forcing them to comply with the contracts that they have with California homeowners. I guess that comes at a later date because homeowners in Pacific Palisades and Altadena, Malibu, and elsewhere are complaining that the insurance companies are failing to perform and the state Department of Insurance isn't forcing them to do it.
really get down to what's happening to the financial condition of State Farm.
Now, I believe this next question, he's asked about that group that you were just talking about. But first, I just have to hear this again.
And I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Okay. I think Queen Elizabeth should have her turn making that exact same statement.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Where's my Queen Elizabeth voice generator? Okay. All right. I'm going to have to type this in. So what does he say? He says,
and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it.
I may be criticize. Now you have to assume that I can spell. And
don't write circumcised.
Dragged through the mud for it. And then what does he say? He says,
and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
And get my wig snatched. My wig snatched, as the gay guys say. Okay, it's under 100 characters. It is now processing. The power of AI. Please don't take my job. All right, here we go.
I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Okay, now let's hear Ricardo Lara say it, and then the Queen back to back.
And I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Okay, now let's hear from Queen Elizabeth.
I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Okay, now that we've done that, let's hear the other question about State Farm.
Hi, Commissioner Levy from Cal Matters. I wanted to go back to State Farm, and I know that over the weekend you held a Zoom with the Eaton fire survivors who are asking you to investigate how State Farm is handling claims.
You mean because they're denying a whole bunch of people with smoke damage?
Oh, yeah. And I told you, I talked to that woman in the hot tub when I was on vacation, who's the claims adjuster, and she says that's what they do.
And I also know that you sent a letter to CEO of State Farm and that he's responded. I'm just wondering if you are satisfied with his response, and also at what point would you conduct a market conduct investigation of State Farm if you feel it's necessary?
Well, you're going to need someone else in that job for that to happen. This guy's bought and paid for.
He's not termed out until when? 2028? 2026.
2026. So there will be an election next year for insurance commissioner.
Yeah, so I have staff currently reviewing the letter. Where, as you know, we're obtaining the data from the survey from the Eaton fire survivors and the Palisades survivors. So we're going to be reviewing all of that documentation.
He's too busy in Bogota for Pride.
And every other city that has a Four Seasons.
And my plan is to respond to the CEO's letter as well. And then I'm going to be meeting with our market conduct team to see when, first of all, I want them to have experts review that to see if that merits, an investigation. And if we do that when it's appropriate, I don't want to stall any current claims process.
They're not fulfilling the claims now.
How many homeowners and fire victims have to go on TV and explain this to you? You won't return their call, so they can't say it to your face, but they're saying it on the news.
But, all that would be delicate, and we want to look at that, because I think we do want to make sure that if our team determines that does merit investigation, that we move forward.
Non-answer.
No, just like when he was asked to show the receipts and proof that all of his travel was for legitimate purposes.
Several records requests for months and months and months were asked by ABC7 and Stephanie Sierra. And they kept saying, oh, we're going to get those to you. Yeah, no problem. We'll definitely get those to you. Stonewall, Stonewall, Stonewall. And when she asked in person of Ricardo Lara's top communications guy, can I have those receipts? He said,
Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara is a national leader. He's a global leader.
And isn't that ripped off straight from his bio on the website?
Oh, one time they literally did that. She asked for receipts for his travel, and they emailed him back. They emailed her back a bio from his Wikipedia page.
And I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
I can honestly say that's the first time I've ever heard that.
I've heard a lot of phraseology in my day. That's a new one to me.
Get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Needless to say, that one's going in the drops folder. Ricardo Lara, wig snatched.
Okay, let's do a Google on the YouTube and find out if that's something that's a common phrase.
All right, I'm going to ask Google's AI, oh boy, this is going to get me in trouble. Do gay guys say, get their wig snatched? The AI says, yes, gay men commonly say, get their wig snatched as a term of admiration or excitement, often when something is exceptionally impressive or amazing.
Okay, but gay people don't wear wigs. That's something that women do.
The phrase is rooted in drag culture, specifically among black performers who wear artificial hair called weaves. If something is so amazing that it makes your weave come off, it's snatched.
Well, you learn something new every day.
But again, if you go by what that definition is, Ricardo Lara is not even using this phrase correctly because he's saying it's about criticism.
And I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
Well, who would be snatching his wig? The fire victims? I'm sure a lot of those fire victims would like to grab him by the weave. Well, this is a new one. California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara just approved a rate hike for State Farm. Fire victims say the insurance companies aren't paying up and he won't force them to. And then Ricardo Lara goes before a live audience and says he knows he's the most hated man in California politics and he doesn't care. Let's listen to that full clip one more time.
And you know what? This may be the hardest work that I do as an elected official, as an insurance commissioner, and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say, and dragged through every, corner of this state, and I might end up being the most unelectable person, but I don't care because this is going to be the most meaningful work that I do for the state of California.
Ricardo Lara says he knows you hate him and he doesn't care. Your opportunity to respond right now at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara just gave State Farm the ability to jack up rates statewide. He says he knows you hate him, and he says he doesn't care. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. California's embattled insurance commissioner Ricardo Lara just addressed a live audience here in the state of California right after giving State Farm the ability to jack up insurance rates statewide for homeowners here in California. Fire victims are also saying that he's failing to hold these insurance companies accountable to abide by the contracts they agreed to with ratepayers who are now fire victims. Ricardo Lara says he understands this has made him deeply unpopular and people across the state hate him, but he doesn't care.
And you know what? This may be the hardest work that I do as an elected official, as an insurance commissioner, and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say, and dragged through every, corner of this state. And I might end up being the most unelectable person, but I don't care, because this is going to be the most meaningful work that I do for the state of California.
You are the people of California. You are the homeowners of California. You're the ratepayers of California. You have an opportunity right now to respond to what the insurance commissioner had to say at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Paul in San Francisco. Paul, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I'm a third-generation Californian, so I've seen the circus going for a while. But I don't think Mr. Lara has any worries about any job he has in running California, because I think he'd be fabulous as a director of the Bullet Train Project. He's made for that job.
Yeah, well, they have the same kind of accountability over there that they do at the California Department of Insurance.
Yes, indeed. I have my insurance canceled in Southern California, and there's not a palm tree in about 2 miles of where my house is.
And they said no mas.
No mas, and have a nice day, and vote for Mr. Newsom.
Were you able to find another company to take you on, or did you have to go to the fair plan?
We had to go to the fair plan at a much increased rate. And just as when we're trying to sell the home, too. So you can't sell the home, you don't have insurance, and the people getting the mortgage can't get the mortgage because they can't get insurance either.
Is that something that buyers ask? Is that a question that they ask? Do you have private insurance, or do you go through the fair plan?
Well, they asked that, but also the bank asked that so they can get their mortgage. I mean, the real estate broker asked that, too. They all asked that.
So is the insurance industry a huge roadblock for you right now in terms of trying to sell the property?
Yes, indeed, because people are looking at what their mortgage is going to be, and then they look at what their insurance rate's going to be, too, because they want to know how much they're going to spend on insurance.
Well, best of luck unloading the property, and thank you so much for the call. Let's go to Steve. Steve, welcome.
I don't have a Steve.
Oh, you don't have a Steve? How about Doc in Northern California? Doc, welcome.
Yeah, I'm here. I discovered you guys about 3 months ago. You're the greatest. This Lara guy, I mean, he's just, what a clown. Yeah, you talk about corrupt official. I mean, you look him up and his picture's right on the page, and you look up corrupt official, man. That guy is. How did he get elected twice? I don't have a clue. I mean, no wonder why people are leaving California in droves.
Well, what's interesting is you go back and you look at those campaigns, and he ran essentially on the subject of abortion. He ran as the Democrat in the race in a very blue state, in a one-party state, and he just let everyone know that he was the Democrat and abortion would be his focus.
And he'd be the first gay statewide official.
That's right.
He's gay, all right. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine anybody like that getting elected more than once. But California, that's what we get for going to vote. I don't know. I can't imagine him being in the position that he is. They had to investigate his bank account and see where he's been getting his money. He's getting grafts somewhere. It's coming from somewhere. I mean, these companies are paying him off.
It's interesting that you say that, because this is a guy who has worked essentially in politics his entire life. Before he was the insurance commissioner, he was a state senator. Before he was a state senator, he was a member of the state assembly. Before he was a member of the state assembly, he was a staffer for different legislators in the Los Angeles area. He's worked in politics since he graduated from San Diego State University. He has no experience in the private sector. So he's termed out of office. He's going to be looking for another job in 2026 after his term expires. You would think for someone who's only worked for the government and only worked in politics, who's not running for any other office, if he has any campaign accounts that are open, I'm unaware of them. I know he flirted with the idea of running for lieutenant governor at one time, but there's no indication that he's actively running for that office right now. I would be worried about how to pay the rent if that were me, unless I had something lined up, unless I had another job lined up, unless I had some source of income already lined up, unless I knew someone was going to take care of me to one degree or another. I would be sweating bullets right now trying to figure out what I will be doing for a living in 2027. But he doesn't seem to have a care in the world about his public opinion, what people think of him. Let's listen to him one more time.
This was Ricardo Lara yesterday at a California insurance disaster conference.
And you know what? This may be the hardest work that I do as an elected official, as an insurance commissioner, and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say, and dragged through every, corner of this state. And I might end up being the most unelectable person, but I don't care, because this is going to be the most meaningful work that I do for the state of California.
You see, that's something that you say when you do something altruistic that you know is unpopular. But what he's doing is he's going to bat for an unpopular industry. It makes no sense unless... Yes. He's talking like a man who knows what the next chapter in his life is going to be. He's talking like a man who has something lined up.
Yeah, somewhere out of state, I think. He's probably looking at New York or Minnesota or something like that. Because, people have got to be wise to him by now.
I don't know. I think you're right. I think if someone in some aspect of state government looks into his standards and practices, you may find something. I don't know. That's just speculation. But he's not. Politicians have to worry about their public image. Politicians have to worry about their popularity, because every election is a popularity contest. I know that sounds crass to say, but it's true. You only win if you get more votes than the other guy. So if you are deeply unpopular, you have no viability in politics. That's how that works. If you are unelectable, then you're not going to win any office. I guess you could be appointed to something, but then you're a liability for whoever it is that appoints you, and they don't have the motivation to give you a plum assignment. For someone like Ricardo Lara, that's the danger zone. That's the end of your career. This is like if you're a pitcher in Major League Baseball and you have a career-ending surgery. That's the end of it. There is no next team. There is no next season. You're done. And that's the place he's in right now due to his deep unpopularity. And for him to be in that place, in that profession, and not care makes no sense. Imagine if that pitcher that I just described went on ESPN and said, I don't care that I have a career-ending shoulder surgery. Doesn't bother me one bit. Well, I think the inference would be he's got the next thing lined up. And I think the same is true for Lara.
I'm inclined to believe you, because that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like he's got his money made out of California. He's going to take it on the road.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Kimberly in Sonoma. Kimberly, welcome.
Oh, hey. I love you guys. You guys are so great. You make me laugh every day, and I'm so happy that I don't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning now to listen to you.
Thank you.
I have a question about Insurance Commissioner Lara. My question is, does he live in state subsidized housing? Because for him to approve this increase, which most of us have State Farm, isn't that increasing his own insurance?
Well, he actually got in trouble for this because when he was first elected, he took out an apartment in Sacramento. He lives in Los Angeles County. That's where his home is, Bell Gardens. And when he was elected to be insurance commissioner, he took out an apartment in Sacramento, and he was paying for it with the California Department of Insurance credit card, which is not allowed. You can't pay your rent with a state credit card. And that's what he was doing. And at some point, I forget who blew the whistle on it, but someone found out that he was doing that, and they forced him to stop paying his rent with the credit card. So I don't know what he's doing now.
Yeah, that's misuse of public funds.
Yeah, no kidding.
And to answer the previous caller's question, how did he get reelected? Well, how did Gavin Newsom get reelected? I shake my head. I don't know.
The voters have had very poor judgment in recent elections. Thank you for the call, Kimberly. Let's go to Tim in Carmel. Tim, hello. Tim, are you there, sir? Going once, going twice. No Tim.
He got distracted by a bunch of beautiful dogs. It's Carmel.
Let's go to Chuck in Sherman Oaks. Chuck, hello.
Big John, Big Wang. How are we, boys?
Great.
Loving that name.
Gotta love the name, Big Wang. You've been crushing it, by the way, at your time slot at 5 o'clock as well. All last week when you filled in for John. KMBC really has a gem with you, my friend.
Thank
really
you.
do.
Check's in the mail.
So you're very welcome. No, I did. You don't need to send a check. Just send a bottle of Merlot, Cab, whatever you drink. I'll take that, brother. So with the whole State Farm thing, I was a State Farm customer for over 20 years, and we had a fire, and there was smoke damage. State Farm came out, did their assessment, whatever. Got some money, but it wasn't enough to cover anything that I needed. Then we flash forward to, seeing all the stuff that happened with the Eden fires. Well, last year, before these fires and all this stuff happened, State Farm came back to me and said, hey, by the way, you're going to get a 75% uptake on your homeowner's insurance. So I had to go shopping. I found a different, luckily I was able to go to Progressive and do all that stuff. There's a little spot for Progressive. But the fact that this guy is so deep in the pockets, and John, I love your analogies because you always hit it right on the head. It is a sports, athlete, final year, final contract, hurt. I don't care what. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do, and you guys can talk about me when I leave. And snatching the wig, please, Big Wang, if you could, give me like a Samuel L. Jackson voice on that. Give me a Randy Macho Man Savage voice on it. Give me something else besides. I love the Queen, but if you give me a different one, brother, I guarantee you people will be driving off the roads, and then the Tom Looney's of the world with the traffic updates are going to be calling for accidents all over Southern California.
All right, looks like there is a Samuel L. Jackson voice generator, so I'm going to try it during the break.
All right, thank you for the call. If you want to weigh in on California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara saying he knows he's deeply unpopular and he doesn't care, give us a call at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Now, Randy, before we went to break, there was a request that was made of you.
A listener wanted to hear Ricardo Lara's comments not as Queen Elizabeth, but as iconic actor Samuel L. Jackson.
All right, now let's hear Ricardo Lara make the statement.
Okay, here is Ricardo Lara.
As an insurance commissioner, and I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
And here is Samuel L. Jackson.
I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
It's so weird to hear him say anything without cursing. All right, let's try Tim in Carmel a second time. Tim, hello.
Hello, I'm here with you. So I'm coming from the perspective of a real estate guy who owns a lot of real estate, and I'm a responsible capitalist. And we have a crisis in California on insurance, and it's becoming basically unavailable on many properties considered a high wildfire risk zone. And it goes way back. There have been huge losses absorbed by these companies. I have no ties to insurance companies other than I pay them hundreds of thousands in insurance a year. And there's such discrepancy. I do have a home insured by State Farm, which is $6,000 a year, and I've got another home. The replacement cost is probably the same, and it's $45,000 because of a certain zone that it's in.
$45,000.
Need $45,000. It's amazing, and a lot of people that have these higher valued homes are they call self-insure. Well, what's self-insure? That means no insurance, right?
Yeah, that's right. And sir, we're up against a hard break, so I got to run. But thank you so much for calling in.